Berserk of Gluttony Episode 1 begins with an entity fighting hundreds of goblins and slashing through them with his sword under the moonlight. The goblins chase a man as he travels in a carriage towards the kingdom. Just then, the warriors show up and defend him from the goblins by killing them. Later that day, Fate stands guard at the Valerik house as he envies the warriors happily passing by as they talk about goblin subjugation. He regrets never being able to be successful due to his gluttony and holds his stomach, which growls in hunger. In the evening, the holy knights walk into the city and a man accidentally drops a fruit near Hado's foot. Hado and Memel begin to bully the man and beat him up while claiming he can be beheaded for disrespecting a holy knight. Later, the holy knights arrive home at the house of Valerik and toss Fate's daily wages on the floor, demanding he pick it up. They stomp on his hands as he picks up the coins. They mock him and beat him up while he curses himself and his skill of gluttony. Just then, they are interrupted by Lady Roxy, who stops them claiming their behavior isn't holy knight worthy and that they should treat him better. She also helps him get up once they leave and offers him words of encouragement while whipping his bleeding eye. She offers to swap shifts and tells him to report it to her if they do that again. Fate heads over to the store to eat some bread. The shopkeeper sees him beaten up once again and tells him not to suffer the same fate as his predecessors. All along he cannot stop thinking about Valerik's cruelty, Lady Roxy's kindness, and his own incapabilities. Just then, he sees a few bandits running in the distance and rushes to alert Lady Roxy about it. She leaves him in charge of the standing guard and rushes to finish the bandits. He watches her vanish into the darkness to the sounds of clashing swords. Just as she disappears, a bandit rushes out towards him. He is perplexed about whether he should run but decides to stay and fight because Lady Roxy trusted him with the spot. He uses the tip of the flagpole to stab through the chest of the bandit and kill him. Just then, a voice claims that his gluttony skill has been activated and appraisal and mind reading have been added to his skills. Lady Roxy returns to check up on Fate, and he is able to hear her thoughts. She thanks him and offers him an opportunity to work at the House of Heart, and he accepts the offer. Later that night, he wonders what his powers mean. The next day, he decides to take his 2 silver coins to purchase a sword but is told that for 2 silver, he can only select from the scrap swords. He inspects them and utilizes his appraisal abilities. He comes across a sword that speaks to him. The sword introduces itself as Greed and claims they are similar, convincing him to buy it. The Valeriks discuss Fate, leaving them to work for the House of Heart. Memel expresses her hate, saying they should teach Lady Roxy a lesson, but Raphael claims there are plenty of replacements for him and they shouldn't butcher their relations. Memel also questions him about his research and he claims to be researching to obtain an immortal body. Fate wanders with his sword out in the wilderness. Just then a goblin attempts to attack him, but he uses his sword to slash through and kill the goblin. Fate's gluttony skill is activated and he has an increase in stats and a boost in strength. Fate turns over to see many more hefty and armed goblins. The sword laughs, telling him that each one is 100 goblins. They charge at Fate, but he tactfully takes them down and has multiple gluttony skill activations. The sword brings it to his notice that he isn't hungry as he reflects on his skill increase. The sword explains that the gluttony skills devour status in exchange for skills. That's why he doesn't gain experience and he stays on level 1. The sword tells him they are the same kind and instructs him to keep anyone from finding out his powers, as gluttony is a skill that violates God's principles. The sword proclaims Fate as his master and pledges to fight by his side. The sword tells Fate to collect the goblin ears and exchange them for coins. Fate decides to use the coins to get a good meal, but the sword insists he spends them to bring him back into shape. Just then, Fate bumps into a man dragging a little girl along. The little girl asks him for help, and he follows them into a warehouse. He sees the man terrorize the little girl and threaten to sell her as a slave to the Holy Knights. Fate watches from hiding, infuriated, as he comes up with a plan to save her. See you on next episode. Thanks.